So this is another like winning losable fight squad. This is like a very old match. It's Shock versus Fusion, I believe in the playoffs from last season. As you can see here, Shock is running 6-man brawl, a 6-man like dive brawl, whatever you want to call it. Fusion's running more of a harder core, like just a regular brawl. And the biggest thing I really want to point out is the fact that this composition, right? Again, everyone is mobile, right? Whereas here you've got, 3 people here that really aren't mobile, so they can't really kite very effectively. They can't, they can't sort of bait holding space, which we'll talk about in a second. So this gives Shock sort of an advantage in situations. So we're mainly going to be looking at Ebb and Flow. If you saw my previous video on Ebb and Flow, hopefully, it'll make sense. Well, not previous, like I said, it's going to be released in a few days. But Ebb and Flow is a very interesting concept, and how Shock abuse Ebb and Flow here and goes second, right, is very, very, very cool and very interesting. And it's how the fact that they actually abuse Sombra. Okay. So if we just look at this fight straight up, right, like who should win this? Right, like Smurf's got Primal, right? Fusion's got May ult, Reaper ult, Grab, right? It's like this is like, you look at this fight, it's like Fusion should win this. Like there is absolutely no way, right? Like Shock should win this. There's just no way. Like if you just think about it logically, right? It's like fine, Shock has point control, but like these guys have got Grab, they've got May ult, they have Reaper ult, right? They should just win. Right, and we'll watch and see what happens, and then we'll sort of break it down. Okay, so let's sort of watch it. We'll play it a little slow. Okay, so we see here Fusion's sort of pushing in. Not gonna talk too much about what's happening, and I'll sort of explain it. Bubble, Smurf kites, everyone's sort of playing in the back, right? Grab happens, Violet gets grabbed, beat happens, Primal, May ult happens, right? Still no real kills going on. And Striker gets a kill now, EMP happens, and now Shock wins. So let's sort of break down what's sort of happening here, okay? Like, sure, you could have watched the last 2 kills, but they win. You can take my word for it. So what needs to happen here, right, and what's really, really, really important about this point is the fact that you can actually play the back part of this point, right? Like this back part of the point, like sort of this area over here, you can soft hold the front, put your backline, right? I'm gonna use a different color for backline. Put your backline behind here, have them support your front. You can also spread out your DPS a little bit, have them play angles, right? And then what happens is when the enemy team pushes in, your front line, right, will back up and kite, some way, and the enemy team will essentially, they have to go forward and touch point. And when they go point, right, what ends up happening is they get baited, because now the enemy team, the team on point, has multiple angles, right, and they essentially get webbed, is what I like to call it. And if Shock is smart, what they normally do is they put someone behind here so they can also shoot it behind. So then it looks more like this. The web will look like this. This person gets what I like to call a 180-degree off angle, which is like maximum value, but very easy to get forced out because you don't have a lot of resources. So let me sort of break this down really fast and show you how they did this. So Shock knows right off the bat that if they go first and try and hard hit them, they're probably not going to win. So what they do is what I like to call is they play to go second, right? And because literally their comp is so mobile and is CDs to live, like literally everyone here, well, Lucio's speed boost, right? Moira's got Fade, Reaper's got Wraith, Sombra's got Translocator out, Winston's got Jump, Diva's got Fly or DM, right? Winston's also got Bubble. So they've got CDs that they can use to actually help them live. So if they do get pressured, right? Like they can jump out, they can maybe use a Bubble, they can use DM, and then they can bait aggression. So let's watch here. The biggest thing is not being forced to use these CDs too early. So if you see what's happening here, right? The first thing I want to point out now is, yes, On's is 50% to ult. Their goal here is to build EMP. But to do that, right, they need to bait the enemy team forward to allow everyone, hopefully on the enemy team, to look forward, right? So Aunts can then build EMP. A good team, right? Which Philly's a good team, right? Bunny will turn around and try and force out Aunts. But still a little difficult, not does hard, right? It's not easy, right? Or a really good Moira could like, because there's no diva on this team, or Moira could send a heal orb back to where the Sombra is, and the Sombra could get a heal orb and make it even harder for Funny Astro. But the concept is bait the enemy team forward. So you'll see what happens here. As soon as you walk on this point, as soon as Fusion walks on this point, the first thing they look at, right, is the tanks, right? And these tanks are massive baits. Massive, massive, massive baits, right? Because this Ryan's going to be like, oh, this Winston's here. Let me pressure this Winston. Oh, let me pressure this Diva. And be honest, they have to pressure. Because if they don't pressure, right, and they just walk forward, if Ryan just walks forward, then what's going to happen is this Winston and Diva is going to sort of like pinch him, right? So they have to pressure this Winston out. But what's happening is this Winston is quote unquote looking like the Winston is playing first, like he's looking like he's engaging first, but he's actually baiting. Okay, like he's literally like baiting aggression. He's making it look like he's going first, right, by how he's positioning, but he's gonna actually jump out and essentially camera. He's gonna jump out and then play second. So watch what happens here. And while all this is happening, okay, I want everyone to make sure you're keeping an eye on this. I think it started at 49%. So Winston goes in, right, jumps out, right, uses bubble, right, he's getting constantly Moira healed. Choi is looking to try and help him with DM and apply pressure, right? As soon as the bubble happens and whatnot, he immediately goes to the side, right? Choi DMs after, so you saw CD not stacking, but layering, right? And that's what it's called, CD layering, not stacking. Stacking would be you bubble and then you DM2 on top of that, right? So you saw him use jump burst, right? Then he didn't bubble, right? Then he put bubble after. Then after that he's backing up. Then he got DM'd. So it's a nice, like it's only one after the other, right? To maximize how long you can stay in a fight. Now they're forced out, right? Aunt is at 66% right now, okay? There's whole fight also. I'm going to also point out. Mott's at 96. We'll go back for a second. The start of the fight. Mott's at 68%. And yes, so someone mentioned that like literally he jumps so early because he knows he's gonna explode. Yeah, he's smart, right? Like if he waits too long, the enemy team has Reaper, he just dies. It's better to be safe and live, because if there's like, the problem with this is you make one mistake, right? That's GG's. One mistake, your Winston can't hold space anymore. It's GG's. It's better to be safe than try and like pull off something crazy. Okay, so now they back up, right? And this is where the bait happens, right? Because now if we can look here, this guy is just behind, and maybe we'll look at his POV in a little bit, okay? Just the guy is just behind and just farming. The enemy team now is trying to rush in as hard as they can because they're playing first to get value first and kill something instantly. But again, you have to realize that Shock, they all have mobility CDs, right? If they grab here, Striker can, wraith out. Moira can fade out, right? Lucio's not even close to it. They can maybe get Diva. Maybe. And Diva has even had his DM, right? Well, obviously Diva is going to DM is eventually going to run. Right? But Diva just gets, grabbed, fine. Not the biggest, thing in the world. By this time, Mott's got beat, right? And they beat Primal. And the concept of this is to live, first of all, but also to allow this dude over here to start building EMP more, right? And it sort of sucks that, like, I don't think he got beat. He might got in the next wave. We'll have to see. No, he didn't. Looks like he didn't get it. Which sort of sucks, right? Because he would have actually got more value, right? And to be all honest, right? Philly could have maybe got a better grav, maybe, right? And like really pushed harder and maybe used, grav Reaper ult, right? Or, because like Diva DM should be low, right? And maybe try to go for an explosive kill. Or he got a better May ult, which you see right now. They didn't get a very good May ult, right? The May ult's pretty bad. This May ult is actually, where the team is at, not where the team is going to be, which should be more outside, right? This May ult by Ivy, is the center is here, which means May ult's there. But in practicality, the May ult should be really been thrown over here, right? So the May ult goes to like for more around the enemy team and where they can kite to, right? Violet was pressured, by the way. Violet went to a really risky place. He went to where the Sombra is to help the Sombra, right? And again, you're sort of noticing Aunt's 90%, right? Something else we completely forgot to mention is the fact the Smurf's primaling. Right, primaling is really annoying. Primal is a disruption ultimate. It splits people up. It makes it hard for them to kill something, right? And that primal it buys time, right? And like I said, like if you notice here, I'm gonna also point out here. Look at the web, okay? It's a very, very, very clear web. You've got the Diva Reaper here. You've got the Trace, the Moira, Sombra, and then Lucio. Let me try and also get it at a different POV that might make it a bit easier. There we go. Oh, it looks a bit weird, but still better. Hopefully you guys see that. Very clear web. There's a Zarya here. I think the Zarya actually got booped out. But right, like that's a very, very, very clear web. The enemy team is like all inside, right? So they're getting pounded by a whole bunch of different angles, and they're like, what do we do, right? Obviously, yes, they have to choose a target and kill something fast, right? But it's hard, especially when they're getting primaled all over. And EMP happens, and they have, you know, and they win. Simple as that, right? One other thing I'll show, right, and I think it's sort of important to understand, we'll actually look at Anza's POV, so you guys can understand. He's just chilling behind, right? He looks for a hack maybe to maybe make a play the team could push if he gets a really valuable hack. Alarm looks to force him out. He gets forced out, gets mega. Really fast translocator, comes back in instantly. The whole team pushes him, right? Because the concept is, oh, we forced out Ons, right? We forced out Ons, we need to get value instantly. That's exactly what Philly's thinking, right? We need to get value instantly, we need to run them over, right? Obviously their engage could have been better, right? But this allows Ons to start farming. Just farming, right? That primal is even helping him even more. And if you think about it, right, I also want to point out one other thing that I think is very interesting. Who did Shock kill first? Look at who Shock killed first, chat. Beat happens, May ult. They killed the Reaper first. That's a huge kill. Reaper has ult. Reaper also does the most damage. Reaper is sort of the carry besides, you know, Maywalls and Zarya mid-fight, right? So you kill Reaper, right? It's really hard to actually like focus things down or punish Winston now. So now Smurf, because you killed Reaper, Smurf can get away with a lot more. Choi can get away with a lot more, right? So it was sort of the biggest threat. And that's sort of how, you know, you should look at it. Okay. So yeah, this is sort of an example of, you know, ebb and flow, right? At a really high level where it's really clear, you know, like Philly should win this, right? But Shock did a great job of baiting aggression and with their tanks really close. They understood how to sort of like absorb the enemy engage in their ultimates, right? Played for slow for Ons to build EMP and use their CDs to sort of trade, right? I call this, believe it or not, I call this using CDs to trade for an ult. Right? And that's sort of a crazy like concept, right? But like, you know, using CDs to trade for an ultimate is just absolutely like absolutely broken, right? It's just nuts, right? And this is very, very viable, right? Normally you see alts, you know, trading for alts, right? But this is great. This is a really high level thing. The other thing I'll also mention, but I'm not going to go too much into it, but is also positioning, right? Trading for alts. If you have really good positioning, you use the fact that you have positioning and trade that for ultimates.